Welcome on to the show tonight, guys. This is Studio 321. This is your podcast host, Eddie B. So Trump's first 100 days in office. They've been talking about it all over the news. I'm a big fan. I don't know how you feel about it. It's been pretty chaotic. There's been a lot of stuff going on. They're saying that he's done more things in the first 100 days than any other president in history. And I believe it because, I try to keep up with this stuff. Normally, I try to keep up with what's going on, and it's actually been super tough. It's, you blink or you miss, you oversleep and you miss the whole day's worth of news. It's insane. But anyways, and it depends on what side of the aisle you're on. If you watch certain news, they say it's the end of the world. He's terrible. He's the worst ever. And then if you watch other news, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So I'm a big fan. A lot of the policies he's put in place and a lot of the stuff he's done over the last 100 days wasn't really a shock to me, to be honest. I've been following him for a long time. I was actually following him back in, I think it was probably 2013, 2012, he was starting to get into some politics on TV and stuff. And I mean, he did some stuff way back with Oprah, but and I don't know. I always thought he was a funny guy and I was just listening to stuff he said. So the stuff he's doing right now is actually the same stuff he was talking about back then. I think really the only shock to our government and to the world is that he's actually doing what he said he was going to do. Because, presidents never do that. They tell you a whole bunch of bull, right? And then they get in there and they do exactly the opposite. And then the people are pissed off and nothing gets done. And then it just restarts the cycle for the next president. They tell you a bunch of bull. They get in there. They don't do any of it. They do the exact opposite. We go to war a couple times. They make up a bunch of lies to keep the people fighting with each other. And then they move on to the next presidency. So I think the real shock to our system this time is just the fact that he's actually doing what he said. But he's been talking about it for 30 years. So to me, it really wasn't any big surprise. Standing up to China, he's 100%. The tariffs, he's been talking about them for 20, 30 years. And I'll tell you this. To me, a lot of the best stuff I think that has come out of these 100 days is a kind of a realignment of just manhood in the country, man. And I think that, I know it sounds kind of corny, right? But I think that's something that's been lacking for some time. It's like you watch Trump get up there, half the world hates his guts. They've tried to shoot him twice, everything's been done to him, and he still stands up there in defiance and just tells it like it is, doesn't care who likes what he says, and he knows what he's going to do, and he's doing it. And you love or hate somebody, man, you have to admire that kind of courage. You do. It's strength to be able to do that day in and day out and fight your fight. Because again, this stuff isn't what some advisors are telling him. Trump's been saying the same stuff for 40 years. And this is coming from him, not anybody else. The hell, they're probably telling him the opposite. Hey, Mr. President, don't say this, don't say that. And he's like, nah, whatever. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. You have to admire that about somebody. I think for men and young men who have been beat over the head for the last so many years about all this weird stuff about their identity and toxic masculinity, I think Trump took a sledgehammer to all that crap, man. He's an unapologetic alpha male who stands in front of the world, tells them what he thinks, goes to foreign countries, doesn't bow down an inch, tells them what he thinks, and if they don't come along, he picks on them. Now, look, you can like that or you can hate that, but it's still, man, it's alpha male all down the line. And it shows people, and especially men, take your place, man. Be the leader. Take your place, whether it's with your job, with your family, sit at the head of the table, take responsibility, make things happen, do it the way you think it should be done, and fight to get it right. You know, and watching Trump, you get that feeling, man. You know, they try to corner him, and he attacks, and he makes them all look stupid. These news reporters. Yeah, I love it. I love it because it just shows you like what real strength and power does when it can get it can move mountains. You know what I mean? And he is legislatively right now. The guy is moving mountains, man. It's been 100 days. It seems like it's been 5 years already. I've never seen anybody do this much stuff in a short period of time like this. But to me, again, like I said, I knew a lot of this stuff was coming from watching him for years, because a president's second term is always is like them unchained, because they don't have to worry about losing another election. They're unchained. So you're going to see them do what they want to do. And the other side always fears a president in their second term because that's when they become just, 100 miles an hour going after it, man, doing what they want to do. No consequences, and he's doing that, and I love it. But again, the bigger part for me is the cultural stuff. I see it change in the culture. Obama turned us in this weird, everybody's a victim, everybody's oppressed, even if you don't think you are, and like, it just turned this whole country into this like bunch of sniveling, whiny little wimp turds, and it was disgusting, and look, I voted for him the first time. And then I've told this story before. I realized that he suckered us all, and he was just basically a white liberal woman in a black man's body. That's what he was, And when I realized that, I was like, oh man, I made a mistake. And of course, I voted against him for his second term, but he ended up winning. But he took us in this really self-loathing, weird lefty direction, and it like brought all these lefties out of the woodwork, and that was what started us on this path that we were on up until Trump, and it was disgusting. I was like, man, getting to the point where it was kind of hard to be proud to be American, to be honest. And I'm a patriot. I love this country, but I was like, our people are terrible. Like, they're disgusting, and they're always crying about stuff, and they don't have any guts. They don't have any work ethic. Like, they don't stand up for nothing. It's sickening, right? And so the country had turned that direction. But I think once it did turn that direction, it was kind of lost. Like, it was going to go that way, but then it just really didn't want to go that way. So it was kind of lost in darkness. I think when Trump came along, with his just unapologetic and brashness, I think it woke men up again to go like, hey man, what's wrong with me? Maybe I should say something. Maybe I should stand back up, and look, there's no shame in that, man. Sometimes someone's got to kick you in the butt. You know what I'm saying? And it's an awakening. And now we're awake, man. I go out to work, and I tell you, I feel better about everything. I just do. I meet people. They seem to have a little more pep in their step, and I don't know. It's definitely changed something, even at the regular ground level where I live. I work in the bar business, so I meet tons and tons of people all the time, and I feel like all of them are the same too. They're just they're hungry for that alpha energy. And it keeps them, it gets them motivated and gets them back out there, because look, we all know, man, the world's a tough place. It can be hard to function sometimes, and sometimes you need somebody to kind of look at you and kick you in the butt, man. And I think Trump has brought a lot of that back to the country. And another funny thing, I kind of realized something. Because I've always thought that, when you're a man, you don't need somebody telling you, hey, get your butt moving, that you should always be self-motivated, because I'm a very self-motivated guy. But I've realized from watching this whole process that a lot of people do need that, man. They need it. They need a kick in the butt sometimes, and a guy like Trump comes along and basically tells you to quit whining, let's get back to work, quit feeling sorry for yourself. And that actually, it feels good to hear that. It does. And I know a lot of men, I know a lot of men have used this as a motivator to get back out there and start grinding, man. You gotta be the man. You gotta be the head of the family and get out there and grind it out. But look. So now, if we want to go into a little bit of the policies, this is what I would say about it. I see what he's doing with China. I see what he's doing with all these countries making trade deals. And here's the thing. I haven't heard anybody else say this, but this is the way that I see this. I really don't know, and I personally don't think that we are trying to reunite with China, just fixing the tariffs and reunite with them. I don't believe that's what's happening here. China has been stiffing us in every way imaginable for the last 30 years. Not just the tariffs. They steal our ideas. They reverse engineer them. When we come out with a good product in the United States, they're the first ones to buy it, and then they take it over to China. They reverse engineer it. They rebuild it. They redesign it because they don't have the patent laws that we have, and then they sell it back into our country as competition to the original product at half the price, and that's how they put our companies out of business. Okay, they're just dirty all down the line, and I'm pretty sure that Trump and his cabinet understand that. So even if we get the tariffs equal, that's not going to fix China, man. They're going to be dirty all down the line every day forever. That's their plan. They don't care. They're ruthless. Okay, so what I see happening, is they're talking about right now, Trump's been touting about the fact that we're making this deal with India. And I heard them say the other day that India, it wants favored nation status. Now, what does that mean? Okay, well, since they're the first major country to come to the table about the tariffs and the renegotiating of the trade deal, they want favoritism. Okay, they want it guaranteed in their deal that they get a better deal than anybody else. Okay, now it sounds fair, right? But I've been thinking about that, and that's just what to me that's a setup. Okay, what that is we know that China is going to be a bad actor forever, no matter if we get the tariff situation straightened out with them or not. So set that aside for a moment. Okay. China's got 1.5 billion people. India has 1.5 billion people, or 1.6. They're always battling for the highest population in the world. But it's close. But anyways, both are industrialized countries, except China has more industrialization than India. India, they are very industrialized, but they have such large population that they have a lot of poverty. Basically kind of just like China. But the point is, a country like India could easily take over China's role with us, if you understand what I'm saying. And I think that's what's actually going on. I don't think we're going to bring China back the way we did before. Okay? I think we are trying to set up India to take over China's position, because India, even before we made this whole stink about trade, was a lot. They've been a lot friendlier to us, more fair. They don't steal our property, our intellectual properties, not at any of the level that the Chinese do. The Chinese are just dirty. Okay, So what I see happening here is this is actually a decoupling from China. Now, we will continue to trade with them, yes, but I don't think it's going to be on the level nearly what it was before. And I think our talks with India right now is to basically say, hey, look, you can take China's spot. You're going to have to industrialize more of your country. You're going to have to build more factories. But hey, that'll put thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people to work, which they'll love it in India because they need work over there. Okay. They'll be much friendlier with us, and it also brings them in as a big ally. Because think about this. The original reason that we let China into the World Trade Organization was because we thought, number one, by helping them industrialize and grow and strength economically, we thought that they would become our buddy in Asia. And we also thought that it would kill communism off, which it didn't. It actually made it stronger, and they've become basically an enemy. So that whole situation blew up completely in our face. But India is further along that line already. I don't know if we're best buddies with them, but we definitely get along with India, and they could use the money. So to me, this whole thing is not just about straightening China up and bringing them back to the table. I don't see that ever happening 100% again. I think we're using the tariffs to run China off, to decouple from China, and to couple up to India, which like I said, they will love it, and we will love it, because it'll be the same situation. They have cheap labor over in their country. They can make cheap products. They'll send them into our country. We can buy them cheap. We can get along with each other. No problems. And again, maybe they become the buddy that we wanted before out of China. You see what I'm saying? So I'm watching this close, but I'm really thinking that's the situation, and I hope it is, because I know that China is never. I mean, look at the way they're fighting us now about this. The fact that they do not want to come to the table and make this deal tells you that they don't ever want to play fair, ever. They want all the money. They want a lopsided trade deal with us, and we just can't afford to do that anymore. So, I'm watching it close. I really hope it's going to go the way that I think, but I really think that's the big story. Now, I'm hearing that they're going to announce this deal with India pretty shortly, maybe within the next 2 weeks, and that would be awesome. Number one, it would be great for my stocks because, I'm in the toilet right now on that. But, look, I'm not mad about it, because what goes down will come up. That's a fact. You know what I'm saying? Don't take my word for that. Warren Buffett says that. He says the only time you lose money in the stock market's when you sell your stock. He says otherwise, just hold on to it, because it will go back up. And, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, man, I'm super happy about the first 100 days. Like I said, the cultural changes to me, the inspirational stuff it's the biggest. I know that sounds kind of corny, but we needed that, man. We needed a fresh dose of manliness around just somebody up there that doesn't give a crap, man. Just says what he wants to say, no matter who don't like it. Because the academic class, they're disgusting, man. They're so proper and robotic all the time, and it's like, dude, you just want to choke them. It's like, come on, people. And then you get a guy like Trump who's a wrecking ball, and he just reminds me of normal people who just says what they want. Now, on that thing, well, the Democrats are all trying to copy that style now, but it's it's fake, because it doesn't come out of them right. So whenever they get on TV and cuss or say something edgy, it just looks like an idiot saying it. Where when it comes out of Trump's mouth, it sounds right. It's weird how that happens, but it's the truth. So they're making fools out of themselves, trying to be tough like Trump, because they're not. They just don't have the same energy. They don't have people in the Democratic Party with the same alpha energy like Trump has. It's actually really hard to replicate that. And I don't know if we're going to have one of those kind of guys around for a long time. I like J.D. Vance, and he will be a good president after Trump. but he's definitely not Trump, man. He's not going to get up there and smack you in the mouth like Trump does, because the way he does it's one of a kind. But anyways, guys, love the first 100 days. We got a long way to go. You know what I mean? We just got to, you got to remember, this is a time game, okay? Yeah, he's got 4 years, but he's only got 2 years to get things going in the right direction. Because if he doesn't get things moving in the right direction, prices, the economy, inflation, stuff like that, we'll get wiped out in the midterms, and then the Democrats will get a bunch of power back, and then Trump won't be able to do anything in his second 2 years. So what he has to do, it's a race against the clock. He has to get things moving in the right direction by the end of this year. So he's got, 9 more months to go. By the end of the first year, if gas prices are good, food prices are coming down, interest rates are coming down, the economy is it's starting to smooth out, the tariff deals are coming through, he'll be unbeatable at that point. If he can get all that heading in a direction, which I think he will. The country is very impatient, and that kind of irritates me all the time. People act like something's going to happen overnight. Well, remember, Joe Biden didn't destroy it overnight, so Trump can't rebuild it back overnight. So you got to give it a little time. But if he can get all this stuff going, he'll be unbeatable in the midterms. And if Trump wins, we win the midterms, and we can keep the House and the Senate, man, it's going to be glorious, because Trump's going to be able to finish his agenda the way he started it. Then you're going to get J.D. Vance in there, who will be a shoo-in, and he'll get 4 to 8 years, and then the realignment is complete. So I'm really hoping for it. That's the way I see things going. But you got to watch that India stuff, because I'm telling you, I think that's the bigger plan, is to couple with India and basically tell China, you're out of there. We'll see what happens. But anyways, guys, please subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button. Hit the bell on there, so that anytime I do a new video, you'll get the notifications. Like-minded people have to spread the message. You got to remember that, folks. We stick together. We network. We spread the message that way. But anyways, guys, this is Eddie from Studio 321. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.